This is Alan Karpik with Arni's birthday Zoom with Lee Brush. I know I'm feeling old today. You're 48 years old. That's not possible. Number 10 racing down the on the 43-yard Adrian Beasley touchdown against Notre Dame, forever in Purdue history. We'll talk a little bit about that. But Lee, happy birthday! And we're talking. You're in Scottsdale, Arizona, correct?
I am, yes, and thank you.
Yeah, and what we always ask, the first question is kind of birthday traditions growing up. Now, you came to Purdue from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but I assume did you spend all your early days there, or did you live there throughout your youth before coming here? And what kind of traditions did you have then, or even now that you celebrate in the Brush family?
Well, no, my dad was a football coach, so I moved about every 2.5 years as well. So I actually came to Purdue from the Air Force Academy. Out of high school, right. I went to Air Force Academy, snapped a few vertebrae, got medically not disqualified, but I got medically released from the Air Force. Then did my recruiting for second year, and that's how I ended up at Purdue. As the way of birthday traditions, with being at the end of the year of school year, we were just excited to get ready for summer. So it wasn't that we do more celebration of Christmas and Easter, and then definitely in the summer with vacations. Birthdays, some of them we like, maybe 18, 21, not so much anymore. We just let it go by.
They're all good. Even no matter what the age, even at 48, it's still, you're under 50. So that's a good thing. Yeah, I had forgotten about the Air Force story. Tell me about that, and who found you at Purdue? Who recruited you? Because obviously Jim Colletto's staff that brought you here. So you were a little bit older, I assume, too, because you'd spent a little bit of time there. But tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I got recruited out of high school, and ever since when I watched Top Gun, kind of had that itch to get up in the air and fly around. I got recruited by West Point and Air Force Academy, and those are pretty much places I wanted to go. Ended up choosing Air Force Academy. 5th week of basic, I snapped a few vertebrae on the obstacle course. I was in a half body cast for about 4 months, and I learned then I wasn't ever gonna fly because I had bruised retina. I got a waiver, but I really never understood what that waiver meant. Kind of some sneaky recruiting maybe without not telling me exactly what was happening with that waiver. So when I was in the hospital, I found out what that was, and with the medical release, honorable discharge, I accepted that, and then went through my second round of recruiting, and really left there thinking I was going to go play under Sparky Woods at South Carolina. Unfortunately, during that, after the season, because I left the academy in December, and Sparky Woods and those guys were recruiting me, and then I retired, let's just put it that way. Okay, and then the next, I didn't know the staff. Went on a few more trips to Virginia, Kentucky, and then Purdue. Coach Caddis was the one who was recruiting me out of the academy. Love that man. One of the nicest guys. Really like Colletto and what he was trying to do. And to be quite honest, I was so tired of going through the recruiting process for a second time. I was ready to get somewhere and play. So that allowed me to come into the spring and participate in spring football.
So I've been in the spring of 94 before. So you were a high school grad of 93. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So that first impression of coming on campus with Purdue, what was that like for you? I mean, obviously you'd been at the Air Force Academy and visited other schools, but always it's interesting to hear what do guys think when they first, I've lived a lot of my life in West Lafayette, but what do you think when you first got to campus, and what did you think of it?
Cold. It was cold. It was negative 41 degrees. It was the first time in probably 5 or 6 decades, I think, that they actually had to cancel school. And I just remember parking at Wiley Hall and having my cup of ice water from McDonald's, and it would be frozen over by the time the parking lot into Wiley Hall. And I just never experienced winters like that. I mean, you get out of the shower, you got to make sure that you got everything dried, because you start walking to class and I would have my eyelids freeze together. I mean, my eyelashes would freeze together and have to walk and get them all uncrusted to be able to see where I was going. So definitely the weather. And then as the few months in, just kept getting darker and darker, and it seems like the clouds just getting heavier and heavier laying over top of you. But after being at the Air Force Academy, it was really nice to have a little bit of freedom. I really liked what the Academy was offering and to serve your nation, but to be on your own was nice. And everyone Midwest, everyone at the school was awesome. Oh, there goes my dog. I told you I was going to have a little bit. But yeah.
So yeah, having that freedom and being in. And then what was it like? You know, you get there and you play a lot as a freshman. You come in. I mean, obviously it was in essence 2 years after high school, but you're in the lineup right away. In a program that you in the '94 season started off well and got off, I think, to a 4-1-1 start. What was that like for you? And I also wanted to have you take your first touchdown, your touchdown to your 85-yard return against Indiana as a freshman. I know guys like you probably haven't forgotten that, but what was that like that freshman year under Jim Colletto and company?
Well, it was hard getting adjusted during spring ball, coming in really a season removed from playing football, from being at the academy during the winter semester, and then coming in. So it was a little bit of adjustment. I think I started to adjust during the latter part of spring football and had a real good spring game. So I had a lot of energy going into summer workouts. And I was just so excited to be back in pads that at the beginning of the season, I wasn't starting, but I was on all special teams, having an absolute blast every time I got on that field, just being with the team. And then the way things played out, was able to, towards the middle part, end of the season, got in the starting lineup and just, I wish we had won more, obviously, because everyone was excited. We started off the 4-1-1, looked like we were really going to go places, and we just couldn't bring it home. But getting that experience and starting to make the calls and the checks in the secondary was something I'm just used to, being around football all my life, and it was just one of the best times I've had, it just being on the football field.
Well, you tell a good story about your 85-yard return as a freshman, a fumble recovery or a fumble that Aaron Hall, the linebacker at the time, made the play and popped into your. But take us back, because as I said, guys remember that. You don't forget those kind of plays. But take me what you remember that play.
Yeah, they were driving late in the, or I forget what quarter it was, but they were driving. I think the second half looked like they were going to take the lead on us. They came on a stretch play to our way. Aaron Hall came up, took the tackle, ball came loose. I was in a rolled up cover 3, strong safety position, scooped it up. Quarterback had a really nice angle on me and just slowed down. I was an option quarterback in high school. So I felt John Crick coming behind me. I looked back. I was ready to give it to him, but the quarterback froze and I was able to go down the sidelines. But I really wish it was Sports New, I forget which magazine had it, the 4th ranked play of the year. And I always thought if I'd pitched it, I might have been able to go and been at the ESPYs. So I was a little disappointed. That's when they had the Hail Mary from Colorado to beat Michigan.
That a memorable time. Now you also learning, playing in college, big time college sports, and looking back from the vantage point where you are in your life now, you learn things, and you went through a coaching change and that experience, and all of a sudden in '97, not only you have a new coaching staff, but you're back in the starting lineup playing a lot. But talk about what that was like and that fine line difference, because you knew you had some talent with that group. You had Roosevelt Colvin, among others, on that defense. It was there, but what really changed, and from your perspective, looking back at it from '96 to '97, to have that magical season in Coach Joe Tiller's first year?
I have to give it all to Coach Tiller and his staff. I mean, growing up around football, I've been on both sides. I've seen how really good staffs can impact a team and a college and the environment, and I've also seen how a bad staff can. And I don't want to say a bad staff, because with Colletto and his staff, it was starting to become a grind, and you could see the wear and tear on them, and that just fell over onto the players. So instead of actually enjoying the game, unfortunately, it was just, let's get this done. And the pressure kept building, because that was coming at you, win or move. I mean, that's how all athletics are. And they were feeling that. And they gave that on, that was put onto us. So it was heavy playing during those years, the final few years of their, the staff being there in Lafayette. So when we had the opportunity, and at that time, as you stated, I started as a freshman, I started as a sophomore, but then I wasn't mature enough to handle the situation at that point, and I had some difference of opinions with the new really, it wasn't the defense coordinator, it was another individual that came in, and there was co-coordinators, and we didn't really see eye to eye, and I didn't handle it properly. Instead, I handled it, I believe, immature now looking back on it, and really kind of just gave up and said, you know what, I'm not going to get the opportunity. He's told, it's been presented that way. And it was hard. I almost transferred, did a lot of soul searching, but I almost ended up going to Oklahoma because one of the guys, the secondary coach there, used to coach with my father at Tulsa. And he had offered me to come out there, and the education is what kept me. Because at that time I was going through civil engineering, and I just felt like that was the right thing to do. And when the coaching change came, it was excitement. I knew I had the opportunity. It was an even playing field. You know, there were no preconceptions of who should be out there, who shouldn't be out there. And I just knew whatever they wanted, I was going to give it to them. So the moment they stepped on campus, I was sold. And whatever they wanted, I was going to do. And within the first 3 practices of spring ball, I went from 3rd string to 1st string. And then I never lost it from that point. We started losing people academically, and a lot of people, some of them were starters. And a lot of people were thinking, oh, this is going to be a really down year. The thing that we knew as a team, those people that were being released or becoming academic and eligible, they weren't starters anymore through spring ball. They had already lost their position. And a lot of it was mentality. Some felt entitled, I think. Some felt jaded that the new staff didn't like them. So it was really, the coach and staff came in and said, we're going to do it this way. And those who don't agree with it are going to be set aside. And they were good to the word. And I think for the players that were there, that was comforting, because we knew what the expectations were. And if we met those, we were going to have success. And it from Joe Tiller down is what made the difference.
All right, though, that year in '97, one did not start out quite that way. You know, up at Toledo in a 14-point loss. What made you believe running onto the field the following week against Notre Dame? I mean, you're young and optimistic, I'm sure, but what made you think you could beat those guys?
Me personally, just being on the field was just, that's why. The first losing season I had was at Purdue. That's the only losing seasons I've really even been through, except maybe 2 with my father when he was coaching. So it wasn't in me to believe we were going to lose. The mentality just there, but also the way Coach Tiller handled it. I mean, when he came in after the loss, there wasn't any sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? There was no discouragement. It was, okay, here's what we didn't do. Here's what we did do. And here's what we need to do to get better. And it was turn the page, next play. And we all came out of that meeting, instead of being browbeaten, we all came out like, okay, we've got a plan on how to get better. They watched film. They showed us where we made the mistakes. We shouldn't make those mistakes because we hadn't made them in practice prior to. And we just that Sunday, I mean, we came out of that meeting with a whole different perspective of how to play this game, how to approach it, one play at a time, one game at a time. And we were ready. I mean, every one of my years at Purdue, we always played Notre Dame close. And all I remember, especially during the going from the 3rd to the 4th quarter against Notre Dame when we were up, we've been winning most of the game. And I just remember the year before, we had a drop pass in the corner of the closed end zone that we would have beaten Notre Dame.
Right.
And I just kept telling everyone on the sidelines, that's not going to happen this time. It's not a close game, and Purdue played well, but they lost again. We got to bring it home, got to bring it home. And man, when we did, it was incredible to be a part of that. When the stands empties onto the field. And I actually ran up into the stadium because I had my two best friends there. My mom and dad were there. My sister, everyone was there. So I went up into the stands, and it was really cool to be in my uniform in the stands looking down on everything. And then I was like, I got to get down there. So I sprinted back down. But it was an absolute great time.
All right. One of the greatest plays in Purdue football history happened, and you were right there. And of course, probably another one of those things that runs through your mind's eye. Of course, the Ron Paulus fumble and Roosevelt Colvin strip. Adrian Beasley picked it up, and you led him into the end zone. And video is on the link on this story here. But you actually outran Adrian Beasley, or ran ahead of him, it seems like. At least the video shows that. But taking what you remember about that play, and sometimes, you always talk about Michael Jordan in the NBA, or when things went a certain way, the basketball got as big as the rim got as big as a half a barn. Did you remember? Did it go in slow motion for you, or how do you remember that play?
Well, first I want to say thank you for saying that I ran past Adrian, because
you did. It's got video proof.
Thank you. Because Adrian doesn't see it that way.
Oh,
Adrian said he slowed down to help me get in front. But no,
maybe.
You got to think about who was faster, or who was not the slowest in the secondary.
Yeah.
So we that was a blast. And another thing Adrian disagree on too is actually we were lined up incorrectly, and I was trying to get us lined correctly, and that would have put Adrian on the opposite side, and that would have been my recovery. So I was coming in, when I saw him scoop it, it was incredible knowing where we were on the field, seeing where he's going. There was nobody that was going to outrun me, because I was going to make sure I was going to block that, or make that block so he'd get in the end zone. And it was again one of the best experiences on the playing field I've had. And really happy for Adrian, and it launched his career to have an incredible career at Purdue, and he's a great guy.
Yeah, he is a great guy, and a former Arni's birthday's new person, I believe. So, I don't know. I'll have to ask him next time I talk to him about that, because it's always funny how memory plays on itself. Christmas every week, as Joe Tiller described the '97 season. You guys really, the improbable win against Michigan State, beating Indiana like you did. Running through the Big Ten schedule, your takeaway also, and getting to the bowl game and beating Oklahoma State. As a senior, as a leader on that team, again, how much has that played in terms of that experience of having that type of year, that 9-3 season, one of the great turnarounds, not only in Big Ten history, but certainly in Purdue football history?
The Notre Dame game, the Michigan State game, when you have fans just come onto the field, you don't get to experience that much. And we got to experience that twice in one season. After what we had gone through in the tail end of the Colletto era, and the heaviness of it, and a little bit of negativity around it, to be able to have that type of success and to end the career, it was just something that's very special. Instead of having, your losing season as your senior year and some negative memories, you get to go out being coached by one of the best head coaches in the game still to this day. I mean, he changed the way football's played in the Big Ten. Went from two backs, smash mouth, to spread it open across the field. And he brought that, and to be a part of that, it's still to this day special.
All right, the last couple of questions. You've had a life in football. Obviously, we'll talk about your professional life, but obviously football, big part of your entire growing up. But have you been able to, you at least looking at your LinkedIn, you did some still involved with football. Are you still doing some of that as well? As you have got a son that's at an age too, that maybe still playing the game, but tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I have a love-hate relationship with football. I love it because it's just an awesome game, and it's but then also, unfortunately, my identity was in football. And when that was over, it took a lot I mean, there was probably 10 years before I can even watch a college football game. And that's
Uh-huh.
a similar story that I've heard not only from past teammates, but I spent 5 years as the Mayo Clinic concussion program manager
Yes.
in dealing with players coming in, pro and collegiate players, retired NFL players. A lot of the issues people were having were just adjusting to life without football, because at
Yeah.
such a young age, you have such success. You reach a pinnacle that not many people get to reach in their life. And you have 80, 60, 80,000 people cheering for you in the stadium. Um, it's hard to replace that. So I had to really get away from it. All I was going to do was play, and then I was just going to go coach. I was never going to use my engineering degree. That's what I was going to do. I went for, after coaching the next year as a student coach at Purdue after my senior year in the 98 season. I
Yeah.
went and coached at Wingate University, was secondary and strength coach down there, and still living in a dorm room in a Buick with a muffler in my trunk. I was like, how in the world am I a civil engineer grad from Purdue University, one of the top 5 in the nation, and I'm living in a dorm room, still eating in the meal? I mean, it was hard. So I was making wrong decisions at the time too. So I decided to get out of it. And then I met up with an ex-Phoenix Suns basketball player, and we built a nonprofit together called Life Education Through Sports. And our mission was use sports as a foundation, develop, or a platform to develop kids mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I started to build a reputation in the state of Arizona with the high school coaches, because we used to do free camps in the inner city. And from that, I was then asked to be the executive director of the Arizona Football Coach Association. I served about 12 years there
Yeah.
and built up the all-star games. And what really happy is we were able to really increase recruiting in the state of Arizona, because we would hold December combine where, I mean, that's the time when most kids knew that they weren't going to be a Division I player. So they needed to figure out, hey, how does Division II, Division III, and NAI work? So we would hold seminars for them and their parents and combines. And at our last one we held, we had 78 colleges represented at those things. And we would always have 40, 50 kids go on to college to play and get scholarship money. And now everyone recruits Arizona. Some of the best quarterbacks in the nation come out of Arizona. So it's really encouraging to see that. As the way of getting into coaching, I still was hesitant to get back into it. But I would volunteer for a few high schools out here. And then a number of years ago, one of my boys' friend's father asked me, hey, let's get our boys to play flag football. I was like, no, I'm not coaching. I'm done coaching. He's like, come on. So a few weeks later, I said, okay, I'll do it. If you take care of everything off the field, I'll take care of everything on the field. And I got back into coaching flag football, and now we're going to be going into our first year of tackle football. And I'm super excited. My boy's going into 7th grade. All his kids, or all his friends that we've been coaching since kindergarten and soccer and through flag. Now we're actually learning how to put hands on, put face on, and make contact. And I'm really looking forward to it. I actually have my dad, coach for 35 years, Division I football. He's going to be coming in for the season. He's going to be teaching me, and then I'm going to be teaching my boy. So all 3 generations are going to play the next couple seasons before he goes to high school. We're going to be coaching and playing together. So I'm really excited to be a part of that. It's something we're going to have for the rest of our lives.
Well, I appreciate your honest appraisal too about what you went through, because a lot of guys, it's just not easy. And I can't, in no way in the world I can relate to that, because I didn't have that experience, and what it takes not only mentally but physically to make that transition. And with your work in concussion, so you have a son that's going into 7th grade. Football safer in your view now, and have they taken a lot of the things that needed to happen to make it as safe as possible for kids that are playing and all the way up through the college and pro level?
I do. I have to really be careful how I talk about this, because of I had 14 loss of conscious concussions while I was playing. I've since had another one through skiing, and then what I learned at Mayo Clinic that age is somewhere between that 12 to 14, 15 age is when it's a little bit safer. And I've held off my son, not just playing because of potential, the neurological development and potential head damage, but my father didn't let me play until 7th grade because when he would go recruiting, his big thing was burnout. He would see all these great players that he'd want to recruit and offer, and they didn't want to play anymore. The parents wanted them to play, but they were done. They were burnt out because they've been playing since like 3rd grade. So he held me back. So I had that mentality, got to keep them hungry and wanting it. The game's got to be fun. And from a standpoint, you don't know. I mean, until a kid hits puberty, you have no idea what that individual is going to be like. Is he going to have the mentality to hit somebody? This is unlike any other game. It's the best game ever invented. And it's the team of it, but it's a very cerebral game that people don't understand. And if you don't learn it, you're not going to get on the field. And that's what I love about it too. It's mental, physical, emotional, and you've got to be able to handle all of them or you can't be successful.
Well said. All right. You did use that civil engineering degree and you're in the construction business. Tell me a little bit about that and give me a thumbnail also on your lovely family as well.
Well, kind of a love-hate relationship with my engineering work as well. I enjoy it.
That's life.
But, it's still not football. Football is still up there for most all of us past athletes. No, but I've been blessed to have the opportunity to work for a smaller firm that specializes in sports facilities, do a number of baseball stadiums, spring training facilities. We just got done doing Legacy Sports Complex, which is on, I wouldn't say on par, but definitely they're competing with Disney Sports for youth, just youth travel, tournaments and that type of stuff. 700,000 square feet under roof, 24 fields, all lit, incredible. It's really kind of over the top, little overkill, but it was exciting to be a part of that. So that's what I'm doing professionally with civil engineering, just managing that whole thing from birth to grave. And my family, which is the most important thing, it's now that I got my priorities right and I'm focused on them, it's special. I mean, to be able to see the good things in your life through the actions of your kids is awesome. It's also humbling to see the bad things that you don't like about yourself and need improving. It's right there. It's a mirror in front of your face. So I think that's absolutely the way it's supposed to be designed. So we would continue to grow throughout our life and love my wife, love my kids. Now, that's not saying we don't have our ups and downs, especially when you got preteen and teenagers in your house. Those are not easy to handle. So I wish there was a playbook for those. I guess there are, but you gotta experience it.
But I like I said, mine are about 14, 15 years older than you, and you still don't even know how to handle them, even at their age. Exactly. They never get any advance notice. Exactly. So, hey, Lee, I held you way too long, but what a great conversation. So much great insight into a very interesting life on that birthday number 48. I hope it's a great rest of the one. And hopefully also maybe get up to Ross-Ade Stadium, back to Purdue before long. Some interesting things going on in Purdue football. You've had a chance at least to stay a little bit in touch of what's going on. I had a big year last year under Coach Jeff Brom, and there's some big expectations this year. You can relate to that, having played, but a lot of fun on Purdue football.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it.
All right, Lee, have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much. And thanks to Arni for sponsoring. And we will look forward to seeing you down the road, hopefully again in West Lafayette before long.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you.
Yeah, thank you.